Hi, today I'd like to invite you to watch a short recap of the movie The Call. Enjoy! Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps. Seo Yan returns to her rural hometown after losing her phone, carrying years of anger toward the sick mother she has come to visit. A friendly strawberry farmer drives her toward the isolated family house and lends her a phone, unaware that his own past is tied to it. Inside the neglected house, Seo Yan finds dusty rooms, old furniture, and a landline handset that should have stopped working decades earlier as evening settles around her. After thieves demand money for her missing mobile, the old phone rings. A frightened woman asks for help and insists she is trapped there. At the hospital, Seo Yan's mother discusses her illness and insurance, but their conversation quickly exposes the bitterness between them without offering any comfort. Seo Yan still blames her mother for the childhood fire that killed her father, turning every exchange into another painful accusation between two deeply wounded women. Back home, the stranger calls again, claiming her mother plans to burn her alive and giving the exact address of Seo Yan's house. Seo Yan discovers a diary filled with dates and desperate notes, suggesting the caller once lived in the same rooms long ago, inside this very house. Following strange sounds through the dark house, she searches upstairs and finds evidence that part of the building has been sealed away behind a heavy cabinet. Behind a hidden entrance, Seo Yan uncovers a cramped room containing old possessions, ritual objects, and traces of someone kept prisoner beneath layers of dust. The diary identifies the imprisoned woman as Oh Young-suk and places her calls in November 1999, exactly 20 years earlier, before Seo Yan was born. A local resident remembers Young-suk and her strict adoptive mother, Jo, a shaman who performed frightening rituals inside the house during the late 1990s. When Young-suk calls during another violent punishment, Seo Yan finally understands that the voice belongs to the house's former occupant through the crackling receiver. Seo Yan compares the diary with Young-suk's words and realizes each new entry is being written while their conversation is happening, in real time before her. Young-suk mentions a photograph dated days in the future, proving the women are not separated by distance but by 2 decades, with terrifying mathematical certainty. Although both struggle to believe it, the same telephone connects Seo Yan in 2019 with Young-suk living in the house during 1999 through one impossible landline. Seo Yan predicts a plane crash reported in her records. When it occurs that night, Young-suk accepts that the future is real, beyond any remaining doubt. Young-suk remains trapped under Jaeok's control, enduring meals, restraints, and rituals meant to cure the darkness supposedly inside her, night after night without escape. The women discover they are both 28, and their unusual connection becomes less frightening as they begin sharing ordinary details across 2 completely different worlds. Seo Yan describes smartphones, video calls, and future music, while Young-suk plays songs through an old cassette player in amazement, from a future she cannot imagine. Their calls turn into a genuine friendship, giving isolated Young-suk the first person who listens without judging or controlling her in either of their lives. Young-suk admits Jo calls her cursed. Seo Yan reveals that her father died in a gas fire she believes her mother caused since she was a child. After learning the date and location of that tragedy, Young-suk sees a chance to change Seo Yan's life from 20 years away, using information only she possesses. In 1999, Seo Yan's parents visit the house with their young daughter, planning to buy the property from Jae-ok on a quiet autumn day. As the adults inspect the rooms, little Seo Yan wanders upstairs and catches a disturbing glimpse of Young-suk behind a locked door. Young-suk briefly speaks to the child, confirming that Seo Yan's family is standing within reach in the past, for the first time. She calls adult Seo Yan and explains that her younger self and father are inside the house, making the impossible connection personal and dangerously close. Young-suk offers to prevent the fatal gas accident. Seo Yan gives her the address and begs her to save her father before the next morning arrives. Young-suk escapes confinement and races toward the city, carrying the knowledge of exactly where and when the fire will begin without considering the consequences. She reaches the family kitchen before the gas ignites, shuts down the danger, and changes the course of Seo Yan's childhood, seconds before disaster. In the present, the phone call breaks apart as the ruined room trembles and Seo Yan's surroundings begin rewriting themselves, as history reshapes the present. The decaying house transforms into a bright family home, and Seo Yan is stunned to find her father alive after 20 years in the living room downstairs. Overwhelmed, she embraces both parents and enters a new life containing memories that did not exist only moments earlier, along with an unfamiliar past. Seo Yan calls Young-suk in tears, thanking her for restoring the father she had spent most of her life mourning, across the impossible connection. The reunited family shares meals and laughter, while Seo Yan enjoys ordinary moments that once seemed permanently stolen from her, inside the transformed home. She sends Young-suk music from the future, and the two celebrate their success as if changing history carries no price during their excited phone calls. A cheerful montage records Seo Yeon's restored family life, while young Suk tastes freedom through music, clothes, and their secret calls on both sides of the line. Seo Yeon becomes absorbed in time with her father and repeatedly postpones young Suk, leaving her lonely friend feeling abandoned again at the worst possible moment. Jaeok discovers the forbidden calls, drags young Suk away from the phone, and restrains her for another brutal purification ritual before Seo Yeon can respond. Seo Yeon hears the struggle through the receiver but cannot intervene physically, forcing her to listen as young Suk screams for help, from 20 years too late. Jaeok warns the unknown caller to stay away, then prepares candles and tools while young Suk remains bound inside the ritual room with cold, practiced precision. The exorcism becomes violent. Jaeok insists young Suk's fate contains many deaths and believes killing her may stop them before sunrise can arrive. After the call goes silent, Seo Yeon searches old records, desperate to learn what happened in the house that night, using every clue she has. She finds newspaper reports describing a shaman who killed her stepdaughter during an attempted exorcism in December 1999 inside that same isolated house. The victim is young Suk. Seo Yeon immediately calls the past and warns her that Jaeok intends to kill her that evening, while there is still time. Armed with that knowledge, young Suk confronts Jaeok and demands to know why the woman has tortured her for years inside the ritual room. Jaeok repeats that young Suk will cause multiple deaths, but the warning only convinces the younger woman to fight back, instead of frightening her into obedience. Young Suk overpowers her adoptive mother during the ritual and turns the threatened execution against the woman who planned it, with a heavy metal object. When Seo Yeon calls later, young Suk calmly claims they resolved a misunderstanding, hiding that she has murdered Jaeok in a disturbingly cheerful voice. Freed from supervision, young Suk walks through town, buys bright clothes, and experiences public life without anyone stopping her for the first time alone. She treats her liberation like a birthday, dressing boldly and enjoying the attention that had always been denied to her inside the quiet village. Strawberry farmer Seong-ho arrives with produce and notices Jaeok is missing, while young Suk gives vague answers about her absence at the worst possible time. While placing strawberries in the kitchen, Song-ho opens the refrigerator and discovers the remains young Suk tried to conceal inside a plastic container. Young Suk attacks him before he can escape, adding another victim and proving Jaeok's prediction was becoming true, without showing any hesitation. In 2019, Song-ho suddenly vanishes from Seo Yeon's family memories and no one recognizes the farmer she spoke with days earlier as the new timeline settles. Seo Yeon runs to his former farm and finds only an abandoned ruin, evidence that his entire adult life has been erased, beneath weeds and broken glass. At the police station, she learns Seong-ho was murdered in 1999 and that young Suk eventually received a life sentence after searching the old case files. Back in 1999, a detective questions young Suk at the house, noticing fresh strawberries and inconsistencies in her story about Jaeok during an unexpected visit. Young Suk answers with eerie calm, eating the fruit while the officer records details that will later connect her to the murders, without revealing any fear. Seo Yeon interviews a woman who knew young Suk, confirming that the seemingly gentle girl became the killer described in the records while comparing memories from 1999. She calls young Suk and demands the truth about Jaeok and Song-ho, no longer able to ignore what her warning unleashed during a tense phone call. Young Suk admits enough to expose herself, then reminds Seo Yeon that she alone restored her father and expects repayment for saving an entire family. When Seo Yeon refuses and hangs up, young Suk erupts, smashing objects and treating the rejection as a personal betrayal inside the sealed room. The past changes around hidden bodies and police reports, while Seo Yeon watches new evidence appear in the present-day files, one line at a time. Young Suk notices Seo Yeon's father and younger self returning to the house because Jaeok missed a real estate appointment late the following morning. Pretending everything is normal, she opens the door and invites them inside, placing both visitors completely under her control with a friendly smile. In 2019, Seo Yeon enjoys a driving lesson with her restored father, unaware that his younger counterpart has entered young Suk's home on an empty country road. As father and daughter drive through a tunnel, young Suk attacks him in 1999, linking the peaceful lesson to sudden catastrophe at the exact same moment. The car crashes as reality rewrites itself. Seo Yeon's father disappears from the present because young Suk has killed him in the past before Seo Yeon can stop it. Seo Yeon wakes injured inside the ruined version of the house, losing the happy timeline that young Suk had previously created, with blood on her face. Young Suk calls to describe the murder and reveals that 8-year-old Seo Yeon is now her captive inside the 1999 house in the locked upstairs room. She gives adult Seo Yeon 1 hour to discover how the police will arrest her, threatening the child and Seo Yeon's mother before the deadline expires. Seo Yeon searches old news articles and case records, looking for the exact piece of evidence that exposed young Suk, while the clock keeps moving. The reports point to a discarded knife collected near a greenhouse before investigators could connect it to the murders, in a police evidence list. Seo Yeon deliberately feeds Young Suk false directions, hoping the killer will enter a greenhouse scheduled to explode at 5 instead of the real location. Young Suk follows the instructions, traveling to the remote site while Seo Yeon watches the historical reports for any change before the police can arrive. She waits near the greenhouse as the appointed time approaches, still believing Seo Yeon is helping her avoid arrest, alone among abandoned buildings. The explosion tears through the site, but Young Suk survives and immediately understands that Seo Yeon tried to kill her in a cloud of fire and dust. In the present, Seo Yeon hears Young Suk's furious call and realizes her desperate trap has only made the killer more dangerous through the damaged receiver. Young Suk brings the captive child to the phone, using her frightened voice to prove that retaliation will be immediate while Young Suk listens nearby. She pours boiling water onto young Seo Yeon, and matching burn scars suddenly spread across the adult woman's body in 2019 before Seo Yeon can answer. Young Suk taunts her victim through the receiver, demonstrating that every injury inflicted in the past instantly reshapes the present with deliberate, sadistic control. She then reveals a deeper wound. Young Seo Yeon caused the original gas fire, while her mother accepted the blame to protect her during the cooking lesson. The memory returns in fragments, forcing Seo Yeon to recognize that her hatred of her mother was built on a childhood lie. Desperate to save the captive child, Seo Yeon breaks into the police station and searches the original missing person investigation during the empty nighttime shift. The notebook shows her mother reported young Seo Yeon missing and repeatedly demanded that officers search the house despite being dismissed repeatedly. A detective finally notices the address connects the disappearance with Young Suk, prompting him to accompany Seo Yeon's mother there after checking the written report. Seo Yeon carries the stolen records back to the house, knowing the next changes will decide whether anyone survives 1999 before the records change again. The notebook rewrites itself and reveals that her mother and Detective Baek entered Young Suk's home during the investigation, line by line before her eyes. Inside the dark present-day house, Seo Yeon waits by the phone while the same rooms fill with visitors 20 years earlier, as both timelines converge. Her mother questions Young Suk, who pretends the missing family left peacefully and tries to keep everyone downstairs under the detective's questioning. Detective Baek begins searching the property, while Young Suk watches his movements and hides the evidence of her crimes behind a calm expression. Seo Yeon's mother asks to use the telephone, creating the only moment when her adult daughter can reach her across time from the living room table. Seo Yeon warns her mother to leave immediately, but Young Suk grabs the receiver and realizes the two women are coordinating before the warning is complete. Young Suk attacks Detective Baek with a knife, leaving Seo Yeon's mother alone inside the house with the killer, without giving him time to react. In 2019, an older Young Suk appears in the same building and begins hunting adult Seo Yeon through the dark rooms with a sharpened weapon. Seo Yeon guides her mother by phone, telling her to barricade the room and use a fire extinguisher when Young Suk enters, before the door breaks open. Her mother sprays Young Suk in the face and tries to escape with young Seo Yeon, but the killer quickly recovers into the narrow hallway. Young Suk stabs her, yet the wounded mother keeps fighting and forces the bloodied attacker toward the upstairs railing, despite the blood loss. Protecting her child, the mother tackles Young Suk over the banister, sending both women crashing to the floor below in one desperate movement. The present changes instantly. Older Young Suk disappears, the house decays, and adult Seo Yeon is left alone in silence, as if she never existed. At the cemetery, Seo Yeon grieves beside her father's grave until her scarred mother approaches, revealing she survived the fall on a cold, quiet morning. Mother and daughter reunite, and Seo Yeon finally understands the sacrifice behind the woman she had blamed for most of her life, walking away together beneath the trees beside the cemetery. However, older Young Suk calls her 1999 self with a warning, erases the reunion, and leaves adult Seo Yeon imprisoned in the basement. The final image reveals her chained to a chair, screaming for help in the hidden room.